what people probably want if they're like modular synth nerds is like actual patch notes, and I'm like, I don't have those. I I recorded these and then I unplugged everything and then moved on to something else.
You should lean into that and and say, like, all patches are ephemeral. Analog sound is once in a lifetime. Like, I can never recreate it, and I don't want to.
Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music through the lens of our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Matt Kistler.
And I'm Troy Sennett.
And today we're going to continue our series on Detroit-based hardcore collective The Armed, also known as the world's best band, which, not going to lie, I believe it a little bit. They also believe it, as we'll talk about a little later in this episode. This week we're going to be focusing on their second full-length, an Untitled album, usually referred to as Untitled on streaming services, but it is noteworthy that the album, just strictly speaking, does not have a title.
Well, you gotta call it something.
We gotta call it something. You can't just search for nothing. But yeah, this record came out in June of 2015, on June 23rd, on No Rest Until Ruin, the Armed's imprint. We kind of split this up a little bit arbitrarily on my end. I made the call on this one that we didn't maybe want to talk about everything that happened between These Are Lights and this record in one episode. So we have a couple of EPs and splits to talk about before we get to the actual record proper. In 2012, not that long after the last EP that we spoke about, we got yet another EP from The Armed called Spreading Joy. You may remember from last episode that we had Chris Penny featured on a couple of tracks in this last era of The Armed. Notable on this EP that every single song features Chris Penny. We also get, I'm blanking on his name, but another member of the Dillinger Escape Plan on one of these songs as well. Yeah, Troy, what'd you think about Spreading Joy, an EP that is perhaps as blistering as the last couple we talked about?
So I think we picked like kind of a serendipitous spot to split up these two episodes without really realizing it at the time, I think, because I think this is kind of where the band splits their eras, if I'm sort of just inferring some things, because they released a collection of like a compilation of all the stuff they had done from like 2009 to 2011 as like a CDR. There's like 100 copies of it. We talked about it briefly last week.
Yeah.
And Spreading Joy is the first thing they released after that, which also in the liner notes, it says destroy or like the main kind of part of the artwork is destroy what's left and start again. So this to me feels like a bit of a reinvention moment for the band, where they shift from being like just a pretty crazy hardcore band to like, here's where we're leaning into this band as the art project of The Armed. And I think so it's a good place to kind of start this era of the band, because this is where kind of the mythology of The Armed really starts, I think. And this EP is just relentless.
Yeah.
I didn't. There are multiple times on this record and also on this EP and also on Untitled, the full length, that it's like they switch into a gear that I didn't realize that they had or that existed, based on what they had been doing before. Like, I thought they had reached kind of the extreme on Young and Beautiful, especially, of what The Armed could be, and then yet they somehow are able to play faster and harder and louder and more chaotically. It's a pretty cool EP, I think. What do you think of it? Had you listened to this before, or were you coming to this kind of for the first time?
I was coming to this one for the first time, and it is. Yeah, it is just absolutely wild. Like, it really did feel like they were starting to push their limits towards the end of Common Enemies and oh my god, why am I blanking on the name of the other EP?
Young and Beautiful.
Young and Beautiful. Yes, you literally just said it and I somehow forgot it immediately. But yeah, no, like it is insane that they were able to push things even further. And I kind of made a note of this on a couple of songs. It does feel like we start kind of hinting a little bit at the themes of what we're going to hear on the Untitled record, you know, kind of specifically looking at art as it exists at this point in time, and kind of how the world at large relates to it, how The Armed relates to it, how other artists relate to it. I'm specifically like thinking about songs like Bloat, where, you know, there's a line like lack of substance, we're burning up, like this weird self-reflective moment about like their place in the scene, I guess, maybe just the world at large. But yeah, this EP absolutely whips. I love that they made a song that they did not bother to print the lyrics to because it is just indecipherable screaming. For those playing along at home, that's Sterling Results.
And then they did the funniest thing possible and made a music video for it.
Yes, I know. A 58-second long song.
I mean, they kind of used a lot of the same footage as from the video they did for No Rest Until Ruin.
Right.
It's worth talking about the music videos, I think, a little bit now
Definitely.
and then a lot later on the album, because I mean, their day jobs, such as it is, are like they are like video producers. Is that right? They like make commercials and stuff for big brands.
I know some of them too. Yeah.
Yeah, or there's some connection there, and I mean these are the most beautifully shot like DIY hardcore shows that I've ever seen. That make up the footage that makes up these two videos. And it's just kind of funny to see like something that is generally so grimy and lo-fi, you know, filmed with the care and like and talent that went into these videos. It's just kind of a fun juxtaposition, I think.
It really is. Like the No Rest Until Ruin video, like it's one of those videos that I think really captures the energy of an Armed show like really well. Like somebody gets thrown into the drums at some point. Like you know what it feels like to be in that room, both like physically and mentally. But I also find it really I find it to be a really cool move that when they went to do the Sterling Results video that they did it in slow motion to just contrast how like insanely fast that song is, both in terms of just amount of time that the song is present and how fast it just goes. These videos are incredible, and they only get cooler as we move closer. Well, as we move into the album, I don't think there was any other. No, there definitely weren't any other videos for the split or the cover that they did after this. But I do want to say that I feel like maybe one of the biggest standout tracks for me is Counter Victims, the closer, which is just like a very big fuck colonialism song. That just ends in a repeated like no until it like crashes into that like big screamed "I'm sick to death" and then just ends. Like great song.
Yeah, I did feel like this song and maybe a bit on the No Rest Until Ruin, sensing more of like a political angle to some of these songs.
Yeah.
You know, anti-war, anti-colonial, you know, anti-police violence. I think that the sort of issues of the contemporary like political issues are more the focus of this than maybe this EP than maybe the sort of cultural artistic commentary of the album. And I think just you know, pairing some of these lyrics with the like all out assault and anger and like, you know, sonic qualities of this album or this EP, like that works really well. It's like 8 minutes of pure, you know, kind of destruction musically.
Yeah, definitely. Like I guess we should also talk about the packaging of the like actual 7-inch too. Speaking of things that had great care and attention given to them. Because it's just there's a video out there for those listening that you can watch of them like kind of unboxing this, but it's just like layers of die cut cardboard and like just kind of like intricately like interwoven patterns in those die cuts. It's super cool. I really love when a band puts this much care into everything around an album in addition to the songs.
Yeah, same. It looks like a cool package. I assume those are not easily available anymore.
I'm sure they cost several $100s if you can get one.
Yeah. But yeah, so then they I think that the sort of themes that we were talking about for this EP continue on the split they did with the band Tharsis They, which comes out in 2013. I think those two songs, Culture Faded and American Lives, are two very I don't know, just kind of visceral political screeds. I don't know how else to describe them.
I think that's a valid way to describe them, so I don't think you need to. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just this idea that like the American dream is has failed us, as a generation, as a country, as a culture, and then American Lives turns into this sort of song of that frustration boils over, and it's a song about uprising, and it's a song about like mass change, basically.
yeah, that classic like countercultural patriotism, like if we're going to be a like truly free country, then we are free to make it a better place. Like that is something that we need to take upon ourselves. Very very different from a lot of what we got from, say, Rise Against, but also akin to it in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about these songs is that they don't feel like, I mean, I'm gonna make some assumptions here, but this does not strike me as a partisan type of protest song. This is more of a neither of the parties of our country are functioning correctly, and that true resistance and change is going to come from outside the system completely.
Oh yeah.
But as I'm reading this, I was like, I feel like any sort of side of the political spectrum could read this and find something that is resonant about it, because it is about the entire system failing.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to find the bit where they go, we are our best potential, we are the government, we are the politicians, we live American. Like that is either seething with so much sarcasm it hurts, or it can be taken at face value of like, no, this is our country now. We are going to go ahead and shape this the way that we feel it should be shaped. And yeah, again, that can be, depending on who is reading those, you can take it any way you want, probably.
Yeah, it can be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And then the last thing they have before the album was on Christmas 2014. They released a cover of the Smashing Pumpkins song "An Ode to No One," which they talk about in the Bandcamp liner notes that they specifically based this on a performance from the Smashing Pumpkins farewell shows at the Metro. I'm not like a big Pumpkins guy, so I wasn't super familiar with the song or especially that particular version of the song. This sounds like a cool Armed song, I guess. I don't know. Do you have more of a history with the song in general?
Yeah, I mean, I like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness a whole lot. And I like kind of knowing the studio version of that song, and then I went ahead and like found a video of this performance, kind of listening to it back to back with the cover. I can totally see that it was in fact influenced by that exact performance and not necessarily the original recording, because that performance is so much more aggressive than the original song. Like Billy Corgan is doing a lot of screaming in that one. I think there is a little bit on the original recording, but like he's going a lot harder at that 2000 performance than I think he otherwise would. And the Armed just kind of takes it a step further. Like you can tell there's a lot of reverence for this band within the Armed. Like why would they record a cover if not? But like it feels very genuinely like reverent of the original source material.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just, like I said, I'm not much of a Pumpkins guy. If we ever do a Pumpkins series, I can give my insane take on Melancholy. But the the short version of it is I like ballady Smashing Pumpkins more than I like screamy Smashing Pumpkins. So that's just like I wouldn't have pegged them as like a big influence on a hardcore band like this, but I can totally see it.
Yeah.
The more I think about it.
The only other thing I wanted to point out before we move on from this is that we were talking last week about Chris Penny specifically and like kind of his jazzier chops, and it is funny to me and maybe not lost on me that Jimmy Chamberlain is also a drummer who like comes from the jazz world and like ended up becoming famous for being in a rock band. But just a cool little parallel there, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's I think that's pretty common. All the best metal dudes also are jazz dudes.
Totally.
Yeah. So then, so that's the end of 2014. The Untitled record comes out in June of 2015. which they had obviously been recording it in 2014. This is still at a point in the band where they're giving interviews that seem like not completely, performance art. So they're talking with some level of earnest honesty about what this album is about and what it means to them. They talk about this album as a commentary on appropriation in art, on like the culture of curation, about the consumption of art, how we perceive music and artists. It really is, I think, like they try to assemble this kind of cultural commentary, and try to place they say that they aren't like judging it, they're just sort of observing it. What do you make of this as like a theme for this album?
It's so this is where I have to admit a shameful thing and say that like I have a fair degree of media literacy, I like to think, but occasionally like I will come to a recording here and I will not have a goddamn clue what a given album is about, and you'll come to me with like a unifying theme of an album and I'll be like, damn, why didn't I think of that? It's so obvious now. This one, like, without having read any of the like kind of supplemental material before like doing a lyrics ride along, I felt like I kind of got hit in the face with what this album is about. Like not in a bad way, just like it is an album that has a thesis, and that thesis is like pervasive throughout its runtime. And I think that it speaks to the album's quality that like that doesn't seem overwrought or anything. It's mentioned in one of those interviews that like the kind of stance, or not I don't think it's one of the interviews. I think it was the review from Hugh Platt, where he said like the Armed are not like it is a reaction. Like it's not even necessarily just an observation. Like it is purely reactionary is not a great word to use here because that means something specific, but like it is truly like this is what's happening, this is like, and this is how it makes us feel. Like I don't know that there's no judgment here, but it feels like they're trying to like take some distance from it and like just kind of talk about how they feel about kind of where art culture is going. And like in a lot of ways, like this theme of like remix culture being something that is becoming the norm is like a little prophetic, because like this is pre-TikTok, unless I'm misremembering when TikTok first became popular, but I'm pretty sure that was several years later.
Certainly before it becomes like a phenomenon.
Right, yeah. So like, that is exemplary of that. That's about 80% of the content on that app, and by kind of extension, every other app that took on that format eventually. Kind of leaning into this discoverability over most everything else type approach to content delivery. God, I said content delivery. That feels gross. But you know what I mean.
So, yeah. So my kind of question about this as a theme is, do you think they see their music as do you think the Armed or members, then again, we're as a collective band, it's like hard to sort of ascribe this kind of thinking to them, but regardless, do you think that they see their music as inherently derivative, like a lot of the culture that they're talking about on the album, or do you think they see themselves as wholly original and like forging a path that is an alternative like way of creativity that is actually doing something new?
I think it's both a little bit. I realize saying it's both is a little impossible given that the latter was wholly original, but I think the impression that I get from both the lyrics on this record and the interviews that I read around this record, it seems like they have an awareness of like the fact that they are taking influence from others, and like that's just kind of inherently part of making art. I don't think anybody in this band is under the illusion that they are like outside of the sphere of doing the exact thing that they are criticizing. Like if I remember correctly, like there's a line somewhere in this album that's like basically like, yeah, no, like we're doing this too. Like don't even worry about it.
Well, the lyric is "I am an exquisite corpse," which is my favorite line on the album.
Yes, there you go. Thank you for plucking that one out.
Yeah, but like I I think it's an interesting thing to think about while listening to this album, because this is a band that is often sort of lauded by critics for being, like no other band that's come before them. And so every time I'm reading this stuff or listening to this album, I'm always wondering, like, where do they see themselves in this continuum of, like, of just like kind of sort of blind curation or whatever versus doing something that is original with the knowledge that, yes, you as an artist, you're kind of the sum of all your influences. But the sort of the kind of clear place to start with this is the album artwork, which is a sort of goofy homage to David Bowie's Aladdin Sane. The original concept of the album art, which is even more ridiculous, is worth talking about and seeking out if you've never seen it. Which is so just good. That they took the cover of David Bowie's The Next Day, which is just the cover of David Bowie's The Heroes with a box on it, and then they wrote Metallica on it in the Disney font, and that was going to be the name of the album. Which is, I mean, to me, that feels more like something that, like, I don't know, like a Girl Talk or like a Jane Remover, or one of these, like, artists that is built on samples and is a little more like on the surface, taking existing pop culture and remixing it and smashing it together in interesting ways. Like that kind of sort of just like brash appropriation feels more like something that would come from the sort of experimental electronic world than from hardcore. And I wonder, like, I always think about like how those things would overlap, or if or if the Armed see themselves as see their music as sort of derivative in some of the same ways that they're making fun of.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there definitely is some of that self-reflection going on, and I think that particular iteration of the album aesthetic maybe speaks to that.
Yeah,
for real. If y'all haven't seen this, please seek it out. It is incredibly funny. It even says the Armed in the Disney font in the top left corner. It's great.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that I think is interesting about this is a thing that the band really starts doing at this point is they don't release the credits for the most part. It's just everything is by the Armed except for maybe a featured artist here and there. We talked about Chris Penny from the Dillinger Escape Plan being featured on the EPs, and for this album they recruited Nick Yacyshyn of Baptist and Sumac, who is, from what I have read, generally thought of as one of the best hardcore drummers or metal drummers out there, and it shows on this album, I think.
Yes, definitely. Like, they had a whole introduction video, like, saying, hey, look who's drumming for us right now. Isn't that cool? And it is. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, his performance on this album is pretty unreal, actually. It's really
I
good.
do not. I have no idea how he does it. It's insane.
Yeah. They announced the album with a trailer that's pretty cool, that is... features a guy getting like chased through various locations and then his body just getting carried away. It's like one of those, like, kind of like the 45-second horror film, basically.
Yeah.
But it's set to Dead Actress, one of the quietest moment on the album, sort of this haunting teaser trailer. So you weren't into the band at this time, right? You don't remember like hearing this when it came out and being like, what happened to this band?
Yeah, no, I was not like on an album cycle until Ultra Pop.
Okay, because I could not imagine, a fan of These Are Lights or whatever, or these EPs, and here it's like, oh, they are singing, they are like doing, it's like haunting synthesizer stuff. But it's a really cool trailer though, and I think it sets up the ideas of the album pretty well.
Yeah, definitely.
But then the album itself starts with Future Drugs, which, I mean, I feel like every song on this album I'm just gonna say like this is brutal and intense, and is some of the most chaotic and also most tightly technically performed music that I've ever heard. What do you think of this as an opener?
I think it's great. I mean, we open and close here with like sub 2 minute song. There are not very many like long songs on here by any means, which is not surprising for this band.
I might push back on that. This is kind of a long album for its sound, I think. A lot of these songs are actually
fair.
Like, yeah, over 3.5, 4 minute mark. Like it's like a 41 minute album, which is admittedly like kind of a lot for me for a band that sounds like this. I think it's hard to sustain that over the full length album time. But you're right. This one is definitely a slower one to kick it off, or it's not slower. Jesus, shorter one to kick it off.
God, no, not even close. Yeah, no, I think this is a great introduction to like kind of what you're in for the most part. Especially, I'm sure that anybody who was maybe concerned about the direction after that trailer probably had their fears assuaged immediately upon second one of this song kicking in. But yeah, I don't know. Like I like this song a lot. That little riff right after the like never let down and keep making noise lines is like really cool. Um, closing with that like nothing but cowards chant, great. Yeah, just great armed song, honestly.
Yeah, and it does a decent job, I think, introducing the themes of the album. This idea of like, what is this? Like everything is dead, collage. It's all one. These images of like, we're just inundated with this mass of references and influences and such in modern culture.
Yeah.
After that is Forever Scum. This was this the first single from the album? I think it was.
Yeah, because this was the first music video too.
Yeah, which is a really cool music video, which is just features a record player that gets doused with gasoline, lit on fire, and then smashed with a sledgehammer, which is just cool. It's a neat idea, and it's shot really well. I don't know. It reflects this idea that I think is really prevalent in the song and on the album of like sort of smashing cultural and societal norms and living individualistically.
Yeah, I wrote down that this is a genuinely good "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" song, which I always love to hear. But yeah, that video is very rad, and it kind of is their first turn for like full song music videos where they aren't just doing the I say just, but like as we already talked about, like they put great care into their band in a room with people or without people playing live situation. Like this seems so well crafted on that front. And it also spends like half the video is just like the aftermath of the sledgehammer, which I find like to be a very cool move, like just kind of watching things fall apart a little bit every couple of seconds. It's great. But this is also like where we get those like really great like textural synths from I'm gonna look up the name of the synth player real quick.
Dan Stolarski?
Dan Stolarski, yeah, that the one that Noisy did the interview with, who talked about his like busted Casio that he had a friend fix up for him. Which I loved reading about. That's so my shit.
Also wasn't sure how much of that interview to take at his word.
I mean, I 100% believe that he, well, like, I haven't listened to his other projects, but I do 100% buy that, like, he approached, like, being in this band with a, like, I guess I should just bring some extra chaos, right? Type element. And if that is in fact true, I think it worked well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, the chaotic nature of these songs is, I feel like they achieved a higher level of that than they did on These Are Lights.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but I think, so as we get on to Nerve Wrecker, track 3, I think they also are starting to structure songs more, quote unquote, normally. Like, these songs have obvious verses and choruses and repeating parts, and bridges that have, bring in new riffs and squealy guitars, and like, but as I'm listening to these, I'm just like, oh, they're doing verses and choruses, and you can kind of sort of sing along to some of these.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them pop songs by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a just a bit of a leaning towards melody that we kind of called out on some of the songs on the EPs as well. But I don't know. I feel like I'm as I'm going through this discography, I'm hearing a band that is interested in pushing the limits of what heavy music can be, and also what like quote unquote pop music can be. Which I just the little bit that I know of the rest of their career, I think that goes even further.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like this feels like being able to like kind of look back on this retroactively. Like this feels like a step towards kind of what they ultimately end up doing in this like kind of current phase of their career, starting in like 2021. But like it is funny that we bring that up here because it absolutely is an element of what we've been hearing so far on this record, and on this song specifically. But like this song is in 7 for a good chunk of it, which I find great to kind of throw out there. it kind of shifts around. Like there's bits of this that are in 4, bits of it that are in 3 or 6. But one thing I noticed about this song is I made that refused comparison last week, and the vocal affect on this song is so Dennis Lyxzén. Like it's kind of uncanny in a weird way, which is especially funny on an album about how a lot of art is derivative.
Yeah, I guess I don't know Refused well enough outside of like Shape of Funk to Come to catch that comparison, but I mean it makes sense again that that's another band that would be a big influence on them.
Totally.
We should do a Refused series. I feel like that's an important band for me to get to know better.
Yeah. I wish I liked their post reunion albums more, but you know what? It's fine. They made some really important ones. Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
Yeah. After that is Rhythm Zero, which I think is my favorite song on this album.
It's up there for me too. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the sort of thesis song, the central song about the ideas that they that they say are central to the record. This idea that that modern art and modern online culture is just curated and copied for social media likes, and that that no matter how original you think you are, nothing is actually original. This is the song where the line that I quoted earlier, that I am an exquisite corpse, comes from. The exquisite corpse being this sort of style of art project in which each artist, a group of artists create, one person creates one thing and passes it along to the next person to add something to. And so it's this sort of collaborative. I'm describing this correctly, right? That it's this kind of collaborative way of creating, and this idea that like just by all the things that you've absorbed as a music listener, as a consumer of art over your entire life, you are just kind of an exquisite corpse of culture, which I think is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. Whenever I think about that approach to art, I'm reminded of at least the story that was told about the first Sound of Animals Fighting album, because apparently that's how it was recorded, was just somebody laid something down and passed it on to the next person, and that was kind of how most of the band didn't know who else was in the band. But I digress. This is not about them. But that's like kind of my big like anchor point for the exquisite corpse idea. But yeah, I don't know. This song is just like really trying to be as aggressive as possible, and it's doing a great job. But there's these breaks where there's just tremolo picked guitar, and sometimes there's vocals over it, and like I think it's almost like a brief moment of reprieve in like an otherwise just onslaught of a song. And I feel like the kind of speaking back to like the not necessarily pop leanings of this album, but like trying to incorporate ideas that are like outside of the purview of like hardcore. Like I feel like these like kind of little moments of contrast are really important as far as like what makes this stand out. And then there's that part where there's the line, "Nobody's gonna love me like me," and like everything happening under that is incredibly cathartic.
Yeah, I mean that's just the final moments of the song.
Yeah.
From a thematic perspective, like, do you think that this song is more of like a critique of their peers or of a younger generation? Because I feel like you could read it either way.
Part of me wants to say it's a younger generation thing, but like I feel like it's maybe both. I feel like it's about the trajectory more so than it is like the current like curmudgeonly thing to say about the young folks.
Yeah, but just that over the years, as it, I mean, okay, this is one thing that I think is interesting to think about in the context of this song. The longer that pop culture exists, the more stuff you have to sort of know about to be an expert. And there's 120 some odd years of film history if you want to be an expert in film. There's 70-ish years of rock music history if you want to be an expert in rock music, but then there's also the jazz and the blues and everything that influence that. I mean, and there's hundreds and hundreds of years of music history, and like maybe that is kind of the central question of the song, is how can you do something truly original or if it is more, or it's less and less possible as the years go on to feel like you have a comprehensive understanding of the field you're trying to work in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valid. And I mean, this wasn't like quite necessarily happening around the time of this album being, recorded and released, but like, I mean, we've talked before, maybe not on mic, about like kind of the homogenization of culture in general as like things catch on social media, like things just become like, I see so many videos every single day of people eating food in their car. It's like not even fucking funny. And like that's even outside of the art world, but like just like kind of watching that happen in like kind of the periphery of my awareness is just such an odd thing to observe. And it's happening in, all parts of art and culture. Just maybe slower in some spots than others.
Yeah, I mean the algorithmically driven exposure to anything is, it's gonna homogenize, or it's gonna both homogenize and also like suck you more into your own little bubble.
Right.
Which I mean, maybe they write more about that stuff later on, which I'm sure they would have a lot to say about.
Yeah. I mean, this like specifically seems aimed at, the internet as we know it, as it has accelerated kind of this pattern that we've been seeing of remix culture, of perhaps appropriation over like taking influence and stuff like that. Like it does very specifically seem to be of this time, but also seems to speak to like kind of the broader thesis of the album. But like you said, like this feels kind of like a central point of the album in general in terms of like its theme.
Yeah, and I guess as we get into Enemies Closer, the next song, like there's more lyrics in that also, are relevant to this idea, like you're a proud inventor, you're a mimic at best.
Yeah.
But also this song starts and I'm just like, they found a way to play faster. I don't know how they did it.
I know. These lyrics go by so fast.
Yeah, I mean, even just like I feel like this is the fastest song they've written outside of the the Indecipherable Screaming song from the
right.
EP.
Yeah, one so fast they couldn't even keep up. Yeah.
Yeah. I love there's like this really bouncy bass line at the end when the chorus, such as it is, repeats. That stuck out to me as like a really neat touch to make the end of that song stand out a little bit more. I don't know. It's yet another like kind of just crushing song.
Yeah, for real. I did try to read the line "You're a mimic at best" as a like D&D reference type thing. I don't think that's actually what it is. I think they just mean mimic like in the traditional sense. But I'm like, how can I make this about the pop culture thing that I peripherally kind of like? And I can't. It is not a reference. It is just the word mimic. It's fine. Also, wicked guitar solo on this one.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. All the guitar solos on this record. There's one that I will point out a little bit later in the album, but like they're doing, all kinds of strange guitar techniques, all kinds of strange, I assume, like interesting pedals and processing and stuff. But like every time that they let the guitar really stand out and do a solo or like the lead or something, it feels like a sound I've never heard a guitar make before, which is an exciting thing to hear on an album.
Yeah. To that point, I think I failed to mention up top that this was in fact, unlike the last album, actually recorded at God City with Kurt. Mostly.
Oh yeah.
I think there was some additional like tracking done outside of there, but yeah, by and large recorded at God City. So little bit of a different approach this time, which I think kind of comes through in the whole package.
Yeah, well, and it sounds even better too.
Oh God,
it's
yeah,
pretty spectacularly mixed and produced.
Yeah.
Let's see where we at. Blessings is up next. Which feels like it's, I mean, again, still an intense, chaotic sound, but maybe leaning a little bit more towards rock. But like they do, they've got sort of familiar chord progressions and lines you can almost sing along to. Just again, feeling like they're expanding the sound of the Armed a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I put at the top of this song, God, was this album recorded in one take? Another incredible transition. And I've kind of forgotten to mention all of the wild transitions that have happened thus far on this album. Like a clean break between songs is kind of rare here.
Yeah, it's not like gapless playback. It's all one song sort of stuff, I think. But
No.
I think, yeah, they do put care into how those transitions feel and sound.
Definitely. One of my other notes on this song is how do you not blow out your voice on this song alone? Because like the screaming on this is maybe more intense than any other song, I think. I don't know. It's wild. Yeah. This song's just wicked. I love it.
It's good. After that is Dead Actress, which is kind of the moment where the first bit of like real sonic reprieve you get on the album. The first half of the song has like a synth intro and some quiet sort of hushed vocals before it opens up about halfway through with the usual armed cascade of noise and chaos, although it's in like a slow halftime instead of like triple time like they're doing on a lot of the other songs.
Yeah, I described the back half of this song as apocalyptic, and I think that is pretty apt.
I think I wrote down the same description but for a different song.
Oh shit. I think like for me, like that kind of like crushing unison type riff that they're doing, where just all the guitars are playing the same like the same downstroke thing, the bass is just following on root notes, the drums are pounding in the same rhythm. Like that is like, they're like, okay, you're gonna focus on the singular thing that we are doing here, and then we're gonna yell "Dead Actress" a lot, which is really cool too, obviously. But yeah, the first half of this song has kind of a reprieve in the style of the kind of midpoint of These Are Lights, but also just being part of a song that also goes nuts at the end is, I think, an interesting choice. But I'm glad we got a minute and 54 seconds of an ear break on this one.
Yeah. What's going on in the lyrics to the song? Like they're kind of gruesome, and I guess I assume, it's meant to be sort of a metaphorical like deconstruction of the idea of a celebrity. I say metaphorical, but also like literal in the lyrics, deconstruction of a celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the impression I got. But yeah, it does get real literal at the end there. It just separates skin from bone. Ugh.
Yeah. Next up is Polarizer, which was another single. This has a fascinating music video.
An incredible
but first
music
we
video.
About the song.
Yes.
Yeah. So this has really wild guitar lead near the beginning, which I feel like is just all pick scrapes that are just sort of looped and manipulated.
I think
so. At least what the most I make out of what was going on there. But this is one of the more like overtly political songs on the album, I think. This just feels like a song about Trump and about the idea of the way that the religious right and then Trump have like further and further polarized and politics and sort of broken American life and culture in a way.
Yeah, I mean, right towards the beginning, we get this "woe is me, privileged man, drinking poison, pushing scams." Like, there's a certain type of person they're talking about for sure, if nothing else.
Yeah, like a huckster preacher or whatever.
Yeah, snake oil salesman of some kind too. Like,
yeah,
all those great types of people that we love. But like specifically invoking like "Thy will be done" as the kind of response to Polarizer, like really kind of like cements kind of where they're going with this, I think.
Yeah, it's all about like demagoguery and the idea that these like these populist figures can easily be thought of as like religious figures in their own right, and then I think and then it gets into this idea of like the people feeling your ego, feeling your pride. But I just like the sort of break, and then it goes this "you're the only one in the world," which I think is this like nod towards, I mean, and if I don't remember how, I guess it's 2014, 2015, we all knew what Trump was like by that point.
Yeah.
But just the idea that like I think Trump is like the ultimate solipsist. Like I think he truly believes he's like the only person in the world or the only person who has a brain. And so like I think that's a an interesting hint at nod to this idea of Trump just believing that he is the only like functioning person, even though he is the least functioning person.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But the music video
Yes.
is so cool. The video is just it's sort of an assemblage of shots from classic MTV. I say classic MTV is probably older than a lot of what these are, but
Yeah.
the MTV era music videos, with just the artist's eyes pixelated and their mouths like synced up pretty well to the song's lyrics. It's video must have taken forever to make, but it ends up being a pretty cool commentary on like the lot of the themes of the album, that everything new is just everything else smashed together.
Yeah, this feels kind of like the ultimate visual representation of that. In that one interview, Dan kind of talks about how I think it seems like kind of a lot of the collective had input on this, and that might have largely also included like helping source these clips and like sync them up, because this would take one person forever at least to pull off. I also find it very funny that there's a scene where a bunch of horses come up on screen and their eyes are also blurred. I just think that's a fun touch.
Funniest moment in the video.
Yeah, I literally like laughed out loud when that part hit. And then you get like kind of towards the end, you get the like everything like gets really trippy, and like you get the like kind of merged together twerking asses, synced along to the music, and then like splitting up. Like it looks like if the Blood Brothers were still together at this point, like making music, this is what one of their music videos would have probably looked like.
Yeah. After that is Ender, a song that I have to wonder is somehow influenced by Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, one of my favorite books ever. I almost wonder if it is. I think that this is the song that I described as apocalyptic, which is also kind of fitting for what happens in that book.
Valid.
And yeah, so I was... There's some things in the song that have you ever read that book?
I have, actually. I for some reason I didn't make that association, but like thinking about that and looking at the lyrics, yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea that that book is about. I mean, I guess spoilers for a book that's 50 years old and written by a bigoted man. That I understand if people don't want to engage with that, but like
right.
it was very important to me as a kid. But the idea that this book is about a kid who's trained to basically think he's playing a video game, and then it turns out that he's actually leading a military action that destroys an entire civilization, and then the sequel, which is an even better book, is about him sort of trying to atone for that and trying to like connect to the one remaining alien creature of the species that he wiped out, which is, I want to say, with this, my nemesis becomes my savior, is what's making me think of.
Yep.
And again, I feel like some of it feels like a stretch, but some of it feels like it fits too well to not be a reference. And then again, the title of the song is what sort of tipped me off to that. What do you think of this one?
I mean, I think that all fits together a little too well for it not to be a thing. But yeah, I like this song a lot. I really like that we get this like kind of, this song has like several different like modes that it's in. Like it's like a minute and a half of like kind of classic armed blistering hardcore, and then there's like a free jazz interlude for like 15-20 seconds, and then it's just like sludge metal from there on.
Yep.
It rules. It absolutely rules. There's some cool kill switch stuff going on, or like it's some other kind of like volume automation, or literally just turning a knob fast. But like, as always, just cool guitar stuff happening like kind of halfway down in the mix in a weird way, that like you could blow past it if you're not paying attention, but like if you're paying attention, you're rewarded for it, it turns out.
Yeah, I kind of want more of that on this album in general. The kind of full stylistic changes.
Yeah, that's
I think
fair.
they do it really well in this song.
Yeah.
After that is No Risk, which is straight up cultural commentary, just an absolute like screed against cultural conservatism, not necessarily like political conservatism, but just the idea that people reject anything that is new and challenging to them once they're set in their ways.
Yeah. Their use of the word neophobic as a as a parallel for that is great. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
I will say that it is very funny in a song that like it's specifically talking about this kind of thing that we get what feels like a straight up Nirvana riff in like the kind of refrain chorus situation. I think that's kind of great. Again, like kind of hinting at the like, yeah, no, we do it sometimes too, guys. It's fine. Bit of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is just a ripper. My last couple notes are just like lines from the song. Just the sounds of a formula made before you were born per conservative tradition. Like just very nope, this is what we're talking about. We're not going to try and shroud it in any metaphor or anything like that. That's just what it is.
Yeah, it's just on its face, just like explaining why culture is broken right now, or explaining that it is broken.
Yep.
After that is Issachar, a title that comes from the book of Genesis, Hebrew for there is reward. And I guess this song it's very gloomy and industrial. And I guess it's sort of about wanting to get out of the sort of boredom and burdens of everyday life, but not being able to, is sort of what I took from it.
Yeah, that checks out. Yeah, like sonically, I really love this song. Like that dull piano sound that kind of pervades through it. That's just like plunking like an octave on the lower bit of the piano, the lower octave of the piano, you might even call it. I just think that's like a cool sonic element that's brought in and like isn't used anywhere else, but like I don't think it really needs to be. I think it's part of what makes this song stand out so much. But yeah, this is a very this is another good one, I think. I'm gonna say right now, don't think it needed a fade out at the end, but you know what? They did it, so it's whatever.
No. Clearly a song by a band that has released a Nine Inch Nails cover.
Right, yes, of course.
Yeah. Next is Paradise Day, which is another song with a great music video. This is actually my favorite of the music videos.
A short film, if you will.
Yeah, it's like a 7-minute short film about a guy who goes to his office job and sees looks at a picture of a hardcore. That is the picture of The Armed playing live, right?
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he goes to a karaoke bar, gets on stage, and performs the song as the entire bar turns into a hardcore show. And then it just is all in his head. It's just his little like daydream of what if he, could play like The Armed plays.
Yeah. It is. I love that we get a video like that for a song like this because like lyrically, this is pretty minimal. Like there's a lot of repetition on this song. But like I feel like the instrumental bolsters it enough, and like the vocal performance bolsters it enough that it really doesn't matter at all. Also, this is the song that ends with "We're the greatest band in the whole world," which I absolutely love as a final statement on a song.
Yeah, I agree, like what you said about that it uses the repetition to build that like, yeah, to kind of build to that feeling of I guess triumph at the end, or like, some kind of release from this atonement that you're seeking by just repeating I'm sorry for like many minutes at a time.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's wild. I should point out that like I keep saying things about the Armed being the world's greatest band. This is literally like if you go to their website, that is just the header of their website, The Armed - the world's greatest band.
Which it's the a lot of the writing about this band kind of talks about that and is like, is that it's obviously a joke, but also like maybe it's not, and that's sort of why I bring up some of the how to read some of the themes of this album. Is it do they see themselves as the answer to the ills that they're pointing out in society or in culture, or do they see themselves as just more part of the problem and are laughing at themselves?
And you know what? We may never know.
Yes, is the answer.
But at the same time, you know what? I believe that they're the best band in the world. Like, who gets to say what metric that's by? I certainly don't, so I'm willing to just agree with it and move on.
Did you know the Used started doing basically the same thing like last year or so? They were just like, the Used is the greatest band of all time, and they would like put that in all their posts.
Oh no, that's not correct at all.
It was funny.
That is very
yeah, it's
funny.
really not, especially now.
Oh God.
Yeah. So we're kind of at the very like home stretch of the album. Next up is Rage of Youth, which is I think the most chaotic moment on this album is the intro to this song.
Yes, definitely. Like somehow put together, like everything fits, but everything is also doing its own goddamn thing in space, time, etc.
This is why you hire, Nick Yacyshyn or Ben Kohler on the next album, or Chris Penny. There's only like 10 drummers in the world that can do this stuff.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And so the song builds to this sort of mantra is don't ever sacrifice the rage of youth. This idea, like just obviously on its face, like don't forget the anger that you felt at the world when you were young. Don't forget the fire that you put into the art that you made when you were young. And this idea that like as you grow, you just become an actor. Trying to like you lose the sincerity and you lose the earnest like feeling that your art you could put into your art when you were young. What is the line? You're a savior born with a short shelf life. Which is I think a vital part of the kind of cultural commentary they're doing on this album, because the culture became so suffused with irony and with this detached like I know everything about everything, but also none of it is good.
Yeah. And I think the last bit of this song kind of speaks to the like the dual feeling of like wanting to rally against this and also being a part of it. The art is dead, I'm an actor, born in jest, never sincere. I'm a thief, nothing is sacred, feed me love, know that I'm here. And then getting into don't ever sacrifice the rage of youth, which like the dizzying repetition of that riff underneath it like just keeps having elements added to it under them just screaming that line. Like it's an incredible way to end the song, especially after like kind of lamenting what they are feeling about art and their place in it.
Yeah, well, and it's I think that it is basically where the album proper ends. I mean, Dead Artist obviously is the next song, but that feels like a coda, and it feels like the all the emotion builds to that final moment of Rage of Youth.
Definitely, yeah.
And then Dead Artist is starts off with this real low key, like I think an 808, and like this really tense sounding synths. It feels like a Trent Reznor Atticus Ross score. I thought
I put some Nine Inch Nails ass shit on this track as one of my notes. So yes, definitely agree.
But it ends the album, with another quiet moment that then gets into this an ending section that sounds like nothing really else on the album. Like the drums are all room mic, very echoey, and it's this chant that sort of ends the album. You wish me cold, you wish me clean. I'm an animal, I'm not a machine.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a both haunting and fitting way to end the album.
Yeah, like it really. Like you said, it kind of feels like a coda in a lot of ways, but also really feels like a fitting end to everything that's come before it. Because it is in many ways sonically divorced from everything that we've heard so far, but like it also still totally works in the place that it's in.
Yeah, I agree. That's the end of the album. The only other thing, so shortly after this, they released a live album called Unanticipated, which I've only listened to bits and pieces of because I'm just not that much of a live album guy. But they also released a VHS tape with a bunch of live performances along with this album, which I watched a little bit of. And I think their shows got even crazier as they got bigger around this time.
Yeah, definitely. I watched bits and pieces of that rip of the VHS, and it's the wildest thing I think I've ever seen. Like it starts off like it's got these weird like after school special like interlude bits between songs. And it kind of starts off just as like a normal live video, and then like bits of other bands start getting like interspersed in visually, and then it's just like weird and mirrored and psychedelic for like most of the rest of it, and they start incorporating just other stuff that is completely non-music related. Like it's bonkers. and I love
Okay,
it.
I didn't watch enough of this apparently.
Oh, it gets weird. Not even towards the end, like a third of the way through.
Okay, I might have to go back and do more with this.
I will say that rip on YouTube is difficult because it was it's clearly like output in mono because you can only hear it in your left headphone, which I hate. That hurts me so
okay.
bad. So just only have your left headphone on and it'll feel less awful. But yeah, I love a VHS like that. That's dumb as hell, but also great.
Any final thoughts on Untitled, on this era of the Armed?
Well, this is maybe stupid, but it is something that I've kind of got direct experience with. I took a poetry class my senior year of college, and I was in that class with several people who I think thought it was going to be a lot easier than doing like a thesis, because it was like a 400 level English course. And those people did not actually want to write poems, and they definitely didn't want to title poems. And the worst thing that I think my poetry professor did was tell people that Untitled is a valid title for something. Do you feel like this album being untitled is like a statement unto itself, or like do you think it's more of a like, well, we had this original concept for this album where we were going to call it Metallica, and that got rejected, so we had to think of something else?
I don't know. I think that refusing to give your album a title is sort of I guess my ideal interpretation of that is saying that it is all you need is the art itself. All you need is the songs. You don't need any other context around them. The work speaks for itself. And I think that I think that is probably what they're trying to get across with this. Now, that is muddied by the idea, the fact that there's the album artwork, which is its own like set of riffs on classic culture and nostalgia. There's the music videos. There's all this other stuff that comes with an album. So I don't know that that's really the right sort of read on making the album Untitled. But I mean, even their band name, they often just stylize as an icon as opposed to writing out the band name. So that's my best take on it. I think. I mean, I don't think it's just like a lazy dashed off thing. I think it's intentional. And assuming that it's intentional, that's my best sort of read on what the intention is. What do you think?
I have a pretty similar take, honestly. So I'm glad that I'm not too off base. No, like my kind of thought on this was that like it really does feel like, I mean, the idea of titling something is partially to give something of a thesis statement on it or encapsulate something about it. And I think that like I really think that this album in a lot of ways is self-evident in the text. And like I don't think that the extra textual stuff of like the album cover and the videos is necessarily like taking away from that by any means. So like I feel like
I think it's adding to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it earns its lack of title, honestly. And like that, like I realized that it was maybe a like bad like contrast to say like, was this just lazy? Because I know it wasn't. Like, there's no way. But also, I have seen that happen, so it's not impossible, just incredibly unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, or if not lazy, like, oh, we couldn't agree on what to call this thing, so we just didn't title it or whatever. I'm sure that's happened many times in the past too with various bands.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, all right, you got a random recommendation for this week?
I want to recommend a podcast, and I guess this is like for a particular niche of people, and I've talked to you about this podcast before, Troy, but it is something I listen to regularly. It's called Remap Radio. It was born out of the old games division at Vice, formerly, well, still known as Waypoint. They fired everybody, which is what caused Remap to get launched, and now it's less good, obviously, but still called Waypoint. But yeah, Remap kind of splintered off of this from kind of the core team of Rob Zachney, who is also on the show More Civilized Age. Also has an F1 podcast, so if people are into that, he's also doing that. But him, Patrick Klepek, and Chia Contreras, their producer and partner in Remap. And yeah, it is a video game podcast, but it also kind of heavily focuses on kind of the working conditions in video games. Video games are a tough industry to be in, specifically as like a developer or a person, doing QA. People are often heavily exploited because it's one of those things that you can work in that's like, oh, well, this is your dream job, so you'll do it for whatever amount of money we'll give you, and then we can also just fire you like 6 months down the line when your project is done. And I think like having that intense focus on like that area of it is kind of missing from a lot of other video games podcasts, but I think less so nowadays, especially since there's more and more layoffs by the day in that industry. But yeah, you can check it out for free. They do also have a subscriber model, but like the basic podcast is available for everybody. So that's Remap Radio. Yeah, what you got?
I am going to recommend an album that I actually don't think is available to listen to right now in any conventional way. I'm going to recommend this new Hayley Williams album that was, I guess, surprise released in a completely wild way, where people who bought her new hair dye color got a code to unlock her like Windows 98 looking website that then just had 17 songs posted on it. So these are like 128K MP3s. No one knows what the correct track order is supposed to be. It's been a very fun way to experience a new album, presumably album, over the last couple of days. These songs are awesome. I like them. I like this stuff on first listen more than I liked either of her previous two solo records that came out a few years ago. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about Paramore a few months ago on this show, and this feels like a great addition to the Hayley Williams catalog.
Yeah, she really feels like she is like going deep on her influences on this one, and I find that really, really cool because she's pulling out a lot of cool stuff on this thing that is probably a record, but yeah, you can't listen to it anymore because it's not available on the website unless you got files somehow.
By the time this episode comes out, I assume it will be released conventionally.
I'm guessing it's coming out this Friday as we are recording this.
Yep, and then everyone can hear how she samples the Bloodhound Gang, which is such an insane thing to think about.
Oh my god, yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's a really, really good record. I'm really curious to see what it is actually called and what the track order is supposed to be and all that stuff.
Same.
But it's the songs are great. That I know for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Next week we will be back talking about the Armed's third album, Only Love. And until then, find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com and noisefloorpod on Instagram. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.